Well, normally when I do my bulb planting, it's done in one day in moss. I get them all in the ground and I don't have to do a lot to prep the beds beforehand. But now, because of all of this, I'm having to change my strategy. So what I'm doing is just working on one area at a time, and I'm kind of following the guidance of my Color Blends catalog, because in there, and I did a video on what all bulbs I ordered from Color Blends this year, and in the catalog, and you can order one if you don't have one, it shows how to plant 100 bulbs in 30 minutes. So instead of doing all of my bulb planting in one fell swoop, I think I am just going to tackle it one section at a time, because there are areas that just need to be cleared of this debris before I can even plant them. So that I feel like I'm getting some stuff done, I am going to go ahead and tackle it one bed at a time. So what I've got is this area right here. And I always plant tulips in here, but there's also little seedlings and things, and there's also some perennials in here that needs to be cut back. So here's my strategy, what I'm gonna do. Number one, I watered this area really, really well, because despite the recent rain we had, it's still extraordinarily dry. And part of that was because it was under the canopy of these big trees. Now, if I try to look on the bright side, one thing is, since there won't be as much canopy, it will be easier for any rainfall that comes down to penetrate the soil of the garden beds below the trees. So that's one good thing. But we haven't had any rain. So what I did was just after, I should say first things first. First of all, I raked away the leaves in this area, or I blew them away with my litho blower that I love. I'll put a link to it below. And I'm clearing this of leafy debris. Now, once the bulbs are in the ground, I don't care if more leaves fall on top of them, but I removed the leaves for two different reasons. Because number one, I'm gonna really deep water this area. And so I have out, I've told you guys about it before, one of these tiny little sprinkler heads, inexpensive sprinkler heads, and I put it on, and I have just really deep watered this entire area. And I did that for two different reasons. One, because I have some destroyed boxwoods in here. So here's one. Stuart, if you can show this one. Some of them I am keeping, and some of them I'm taking out. So this boxwood here, you can see it has some damage on the back side and some broken branches, but nevertheless, most of it is intact. This one is pretty much a goner, and it doesn't serve its purpose anymore in the design. So to make it easier to dig out, that's one of the reasons that I watered this area. I am also going to be cutting back some of the perennials in here. And you can see from the circumference of this, I think it's a lavage. This, by the way, is a plant. I have no idea where it came from. It just kind of planted itself there. It appeared, I don't recall ever planting it, but it turned out to be a beautiful plant that has gorgeous foliage, and it puts out a pretty purpley blue bloom in the spring. So this is a large plant that takes up a good bit of real estate in this bed. By cutting this back, I should have my pruners with me and I don't. But you can see that by cutting this back, I can expose all sorts of planting area underneath here. And let me try to get down. And let me tell you guys, as an aside, I worked out with my trainer this week, and I am so sore I can hardly bend down. So I just had to share that with you if I look awkward bending down or coming back up. But you can see under here, see all of that surface area that I've now exposed? That is prime territory for planting tulip bulbs. If I just left it covered like this, then I would think that something was growing there, and I would think I only had this portion in which to plant. But no, I have a lot more room than that. So I'm going to cut this back. It's a perennial. I can safely do that. It doesn't need to keep on its foliage over the winter to protect the root ball. And this will give me a lot more space to plant bulbs in here. And another reason that I want to saturate this area is because it kind of provides a little bit more contrast for me to see some things. And some of the things that I'm looking for down in here are seedlings, because I don't want to disrupt some of these seedlings if they are seedlings that I want to keep for my spring show as I'm planting bulbs. So I can be on the lookout for them. And this area also, I know that I've got, like here is a tiny little foxglove right there. And I think, oh yes, look over here. There are some other seedlings that I'm going to kind of expose to the sunlight. They will grow up and they'll be a little bit more prominent. And I just want to pay attention to them. If they're seedlings I want to keep and be part of the fall show, then I can see them more easily now that I have wet this bed and there's a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to keep all of that in mind before I start digging. And I think that's really, really helpful. And you can see over here, I've got some columbine seedlings. There's a columbine seedling there. And I've got some more foxglove over here. And all of this, by the way, I think is going to do better with more sunlight. So I'm exposing this area, and then in this space right in here, if you could kind of pan it, Stuart, this space here is where I'm going to start my bulb planting. And as I actually do it, I will demonstrate what my technique is to most efficiently plant bulbs, at least in this space. So I hope that was helpful, and it gives you a little bit of information on the rationale and the methodology of how I decide what to plant where in terms of bulb planting.